Wow. So I heard that one time was not enough. Really want to mess with me? You know what I'm talking about. It is no longer just about going to jail. It is about going to the hole. I have done my time, have you? So not only are these going to be tropes that will put you in the hole, but these are actual hate crimes against me. Are you ready for this? I don't think you are. You're not ready for the tropes that will put you in the hole and make you a hard-edged writer like me with one eye. Do you understand how hard it is to edit a manuscript when you've only got one eye on the business? I don't think you do. This is the hard life, my friend. This is the life. Hello everybody, my name is Ian Kirkpatrick. I'm an author, idiot, and loin streamer, and today I'm going to be doing a follow-up video to my illegal trope video, which you can check out at the end of this one if you want to see which tropes should be illegal. Will get you sent to jail. For real though. But today, instead of that, we're going to be talking about the 10 tropes that are a hate crime against me specifically. And will probably get you in the hole. I don't make the rules. It's not my channel. I don't make the rules. But before we get started, a couple of things. Number one, if you enjoy what I do on this channel, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Number two, if you would like to be featured on the channel, check out links down in the description below. 2 ways to be featured. Number one is through Lamai, which is the monthly prompt contest here, where I give you a prompt, you guys respond. First Monday video of the month is reading your guys' creativity, and the second way is if you're an indie author with a book out there or a book that is coming out, submit your first chapter and your cover page to the Fresh Meat feature, and eventually they will be read on this channel to hopefully help more people find your book and a new story to love. And then number 3, if you would like to support me or read any of my books, they're available at any of your favorite retailers, and also there are other ways. But so there is all of that. I know I need all the support that I can get because I've only got this one eye. I do be looking pretty good though, let's not lie. I don't know why you guys demand so much to know how to hurt me personally, specifically, but you did. You wanted to know after you got sent to jail what more you could do to be a disappointment. So, here we are. Number 1 hate crime against me is character has all of the powers but absolutely no struggle. Look, I love myself an OP character as much as the next person. Love them in a great story. I really don't mind if they win everything, but they need a reason. They need a struggle. They need to have to gain that ability through some manner of training, through morality, through something, not just have it thrown at them. Which, if you look at my Shadow of the Conqueror video, that can show you why I like a really bad example of just somebody gaining OP powers that doesn't deserve it. Make it feel earned is really all that I ask for. Make me enjoy the character, make me want the character to have those abilities, really. Because if a character just doesn't earn any of their abilities, it's like, why even bother? Number 2, thirst trap fiction. Ugh. Now, this isn't I don't think this is a legitimate genre, but it should be, and this is the fiction where, like, all of the narration is just about how thirsty the characters are for one another. The whole entire plot line is really just sustained by the two of them not having sex when they really want to have sex with one another, and everything about them is just wanting to bang. They look at each other and all they see is who they want to bang. This can get so bad. So Guns and Smoke is a great example of thirst trap fiction where literally every moment of every day is spent just thinking about having sex with the co-star of the book, where there's no consideration thrown in when there's a 10-year-old in the room. There's no consideration thrown in when the characters are somewhere public. There's no consideration if they're running for their life. It's every time looking at the other character and you're thinking about having sex, or you're publicly touching somebody, having sex. Now, maybe exhibitionism is your thing, but if I'm going into a Western fiction, or a Western post-apocalyptic fiction, I am not expecting 90% of the pros to be thirsty. There is a difference between sexual tension and thirst, and my friends, thirst is not it. Thirst is just painful if you are not as horny as the author is, or was when writing the fic. That's all I'm gonna say. Number 3, whole thing was fake. This gets you in the hole permanently. No eyes, will cut off your hands, cut off your feet. Good luck with life after that. So, Recently, I did a review for a book called Survive the Night, where at the end of the book, the whole thing was a movie rendition of somebody's life, and she's like, basically the movies make stuff up, so it's larger than life and it's not legitimate to what actually happened. This is just as bad as I Awoke from a Dream, which was the ending of The Men, where that main character experienced like a gender apocalypse where all of the XY chromosomes were taken away and it was just XX chromosomes left on the planet. And at the end of it, she awoke from a dream where she had been napping in the woods when she'd gone on a camping trip with her husband and her child. And after going through that gender apocalypse dream of just a communist cop killer lover from college, she decided she wanted to divorce her husband and run away for no apparent reason, leaving her child. Like, when you make your entire book just end with "and then you woke from a dream," you're telling the reader that they just wasted their time. There were no stakes. What just happened was entirely a lie, and it might just seem silly because a book is generally a lie since it's a fiction, but we're still invested in the character's story and the character growth. And if you take me on 9 to 12 hours or more of this story and then go, haha, it was all a waste of time, no hands, no feet, no eyes. In the hole forever. Number 4, specifically falling in love and forgiving your rapist. Now this feels very specific because it is. In the last 2 years, I have read found much more fiction that specifically involves having the main character fall in love with her rapist and then forgive her rapist. We got His Name is Augustine. We got Flames of Lith. We've got technically Shadow of the Conqueror doesn't go there, but she still does forgive her rapist and become his partner at the end of that. And who knows what's going to happen at the end of that. The whole situation with Dalen is weird because he looks 17, he's got a 30-year-old body, he's an 84-year-old man. Like, whatever he romantically gets involved with, if he gets romantically involved in anything, is going to be bizarre. But there has been a lot of brutal rapist being forgiven by the rapee, and I don't understand specifically this fixation on it. I get that as certain people's things, and there is value in telling that story. It's just weird that there is such a focus on this, and the couple of stories that I've read so far that did include that didn't really include a character arc that made it make sense. Like in Flames of Lith, the main character, only learned that her rapist was traveling with her all along at the very end through flashback. The reader gets that through flashback. And then immediately forgives him, and then they become a threesome group where the rapist is the third wheel for this polyamorous relationship. And His Name is Augustine. You've got Swanee, who's getting beat and abused and raped by this demon lover of hers, who is constantly saying it's the demon, it's not him. And then Augustine never fesses up or confesses or apologizes for his actions to Swanee. She just forgives him for rape. She does not forgive the college student, though, who raped her while he was possessed by a demon. And that was also added later, because when I initially read it, there was no demon possession involved in that situation, or at least referenced in that situation in the earlier copy. I don't know what happened. Anyway, it's kind of weird, and it feels like it's happening more and more, and I'm not entirely sure why. Let me know if you've noticed this trend in any of the fiction that you have read recently, because I feel like I am seeing it a lot more than I used to. And if that is your thing, that is your thing, but I am curious as to what is happening right now. Number 5, 0 stakes, 0 follow through. So this is typically part of a power fantasy where everything just goes in the direction that the main character wants it to go into. So there are 0 stakes. There's nothing that character is actually going to lose. There's no tension because that character is not allowed to be punished. And then if the author says, hey, there is this situation, and if you break this situation, then you will not get what you want, there's no follow through. So even when that character misbehaves, that character knows they can misbehave because the plot is going to force them a certain direction, and the author won't allow that character to be stopped from getting what they want. Just an example off the top of my head is Lightlark, when Ela yells at Oro that she wants to go into the library, and she's like, you promised that I could go into the library if I let the Spectre take control of me. Said, I'll take you whenever I feel like it. And then she goes, well, I'm gonna go by myself anyway then, because you can't stop me. And then she goes and shows up all on her own and nobody stops her, which means that there are no consequences to anything that she does. There's no follow through, and she gets whatever she wants, which means she can behave in whatever way she wants. It's the same thing as when she kills a bunch of specifically noblemen from Moonling, and there are no repercussions because a bunch of noblemen were just murdered. When you do these high stakes situations and you give zero follow through, then you show that there's really never going to be any resistance in that story, and there's no tension. We're automatically already going to assume that the main character and the protagonist of a story is going to get out on the other side, because that's typically how stories are. Not always, but typically. However, if you give zero reason for them to grow, for them to work around something, for zero consequences for when they do an immoral or an unethical or an impulsive action, then you create a situation where nothing that character does matters, because everything is going to fall into place in the same way. This is also, if you go and look at Alexa Dunn's recent book, Pretty Dead Queens, where the character moved into town. And she's suspicious. She's a stranger. She moved into a small town. Murders start happening. She's sneaking around asking people things and sneaking around the police department, and nobody is commenting on her doing these things when she looks very suspicious. It would have been very interesting to add to that tension with the cops thinking that she's doing something because she's acting suspicious and she has to change her behavior in order to not get framed for something she didn't do. But if the author already knows how they want something to end, so they're just going to ignore what all of these behaviors look like in context, there's no reason to read, because everything is just gonna go in a certain direction with zero influence from the surroundings. And it's, I don't know, I read stories for the character. So even if something is going to turn out on a positive way, I'm there for the character journey and to see how the character reacts with the characters around them, or how the characters around them react to that one character. Number 6, political ideologue writing. I don't know about anybody else, but there has specifically been an uptick in very, very not even veiled political ideology written in books. There's like literally the book stops to preach at you, which has always also been a thing. And you'll never get away from your politics or your beliefs being written into your work. But I'm talking about even the authors specifically are saying that the reason that they wrote this book is to make a political statement. I'm not in a fiction novel for your political ideology or to be taught by you something. I'm going to pick up on like what your beliefs are and your setup is by virtue of how you write. But please stop with people thinking that you need to use fiction as a vehicle in order to brainwash people. The things that bother me about this, number 1, is that it often comes off like the author thinks they know better, and so then it's their job to educate you in their ideology so that you can now think the correct way. And the other reason is because often when you believe so intrinsically and so passionately about your specific ideology that you are teaching through your fiction, that ideology, it means that you can't betray that ideology. So then your story becomes weaker. I've read a couple of books recently that are so strongly ideologically bent, whether it's politics, whether it's religion, that they can't break the virtues in which they believe in. So then there's no teeth to that story. If you look at Height of Perdition, it's about a post-apocalyptic dystopian dictatorship, but the dictatorship doesn't follow any of the dictatorship tenets that we're told. The characters from the dictatorship don't follow the tenets in which we're told, because ideologically it feels like there's a disconnect between the author and the characters, so there can't be follow-through. There's also this idea that often comes through with Christian fiction where like your good guy characters can't do anything questionable or bad because it will look bad on the church. It's not what Christians are supposed to do. But that's not a good representation of real people, because real people do lie. How are you going to create a pirate or a criminal or something and they can't lie? So ideologically driven fiction is often much shallower. And that's not to say that you can't have ideologically lush fiction. Like everything Ayn Rand does is ideologically like lush. And some people hate her and some people don't hate her. And that's just, I guess, also how it is whenever you write ideologically. But I'm just like, can you give me a story first and then build that story into your ideology instead of this thin veneer of hate fiction for something that you don't believe in, so that you can create a straw man and then feel like you need to tell me what to do through that fiction. Anyway, number 7, everyone loves your main character. Literally everybody. This kind of is similar to the all powers, no struggle, because I don't mind if a story has a character that is supposed to be well-liked by everyone. I've got Katsuo, who, he's not even well-liked by everyone because he's kind of a troublemaker, but he's got a hell of a lot of charisma, that everywhere he goes, people just kind of gravitate towards him, girls gravitate towards him. He's kind of trouble, so they also don't want to get in trouble, but you know, he's got a fair amount of charisma that people want to be involved with him. However, there needs to be a limit. There needs to be a reason behind why those characters like them, and not just because they're the good guys. Again, I reference Pretty Dead Queens by Alexa Dunn, where this chick moves to this small town, and you would think that a small town is a little more closed off. They don't want so much to do with outsiders because they don't trust outsiders that much. You have to build a relationship as an outsider. However, everybody in that small town automatically trusts the main character, except for the bad guys. Well, the bad guys also trust her. That's because they're manipulating her. But that's usually how it works. Which goes into the next thing, because 7 and 8 go together. Everyone loves the main character except for the bad guy. Have you ever read a book where like everybody is just loving on that main character, and then somebody else walks on and they sneer like every single time they meet that main character, and it's either set up for sexual tension to do the enemies to lovers trope, or you're considered like the badass bitch who's supposed to hate the main character? Let's go back to Lightlark, looking at Cleo. And every time Cleo interacts with Ela, she's like sneering, or it said she's doing it meanly. And I'm just like, this is the author interpreting this character as opposed to how this character actually is. And technically for me, when authors try that hard to make you feel a certain way about a character, I don't believe you that that character is actually that dickish. I just go, the author is trying to manipulate me. And I don't think that character is as bad as the author wants me to believe that character is. And it's also just so heavy-handed that literally everything comes down to a sneer or meanly in the narration, just to tell me this character is kind of a dick because they are set up to be antagonistic. You can be more chill about the antagonism between characters and have actual range, as opposed to making everyone who's not a bad guy love the main character and everybody who is a bad guy sneer at the sight like they're allergic to the main character. This includes, with the everybody loves the main character, this includes the stories where there's like the badass boss leader that is supposedly super dangerous and hates everybody, and the main character is warned not to backtalk, but then the main character meets that boss character, they talk back, and the boss character is like, I like you. You are so smart and brave. I like this cookie whole bit. I don't like that. Number 9, throwing rape into books for no reason and or shallow reasons. So we got rape on here twice for 2 very different reasons, probably because I wrote this list while dealing with Shadow of the Conqueror. But Threadbare, by L.E. Iyer, also did this, where at the end of Threadbare, the bad guy randomly raped the main character, and then the main character just immediately murdered him. But she was already traumatized enough that this rape didn't need to happen. And then if you play out the whole rest of the book, the rape didn't do anything for the storyline. And then by book 2, it was completely ignored except for the point of saying, oh, and then her memories were erased all the way at the end of the book, so that now she didn't have trauma of rape, when she didn't need the trauma of rape for the entirety of the book, because the only time that it came up in book 2 is at the beginning when her girlfriend was complaining that, hey, my girlfriend isn't being intimate with me. And I think it's because she was traumatized. And did they actually talk about that issue? No, they didn't, because the majority of book 2 for the Threadbare series was about the soldier girl meeting her empath girlfriend's family and friends and being awkward because the soldier girl is, 1, a soldier, and 2, a cyborg, so she's got human distancing. So she didn't need the added thing of the sexual disconnection. In fact, her being a soldier and being a cyborg could have actually made her feel less affectionate and less like she wanted to connect with her girlfriend in that way. And that would have been more powerful than trying to insert this rape trauma that you then ignored and that you then just healed at the very end because you didn't want to deal with it. Why put a rape in a story if you're not going to actually handle it? Shadow of the Conqueror did this in spades, where pretty much every female character that was mentioned was sexually assaulted, and yet it didn't actually deal with what that meant for the characters in any appropriate manner. And so I'm just asking, if you put any sorts of elements, especially traumatic elements in your story, consider the after effect of those things. What does that trauma look like? Obviously I can't stop people, and I'm not telling people not to experiment and try things, but please, for the love of all that is holy, think about the choices that you make and what those decisions mean as a tidal wave in the future. That is the really interesting thing with storytelling and events that happen to characters, how those characters respond, how those characters cope. That is the meat of storytelling, is what do people do in these situations? And please consider that. Number 10, undermining your characters' personalities. This probably goes along with the kinds of people that don't believe that your characters have their own personalities, that once you start writing them, you know, they kind of tell you what they're going to do, and yeah, I just have to go with it. I've read so many books, and this is like my biggest pet peeve, and usually what will make me not enjoy your book is if you break your own logic within your story. It's either your world logic or your character logic. Either of those two things, and I just drop out of the story, and I'm like, why the frick are we here? You told me this was the character, this is what they're doing, why are they doing this other thing that is completely against what they would do, what they're capable of doing, how they would act? For example, Shadow of the Conqueror. You're gonna tell me that Eric is a light bringer, and so he's basically a holy priest, a light priest of some kind, and so he's there to be a guiding light to teach somebody to be better. How is he approving of murder? He is not pushing somebody to be a better person. He's looking at the murderer and saying, you are holier than everybody else in the universe. I'm sure we all have our experiences with stories that say this character is super hated by everyone because she's the not popular girl, but then like everybody loves her except for the mean girls that are supposed to hate her because she's the bad guy. All I ask is if you tell me that X is the type of character that they are, that you don't undermine them for plot purposes, and you allow the plot to change based on how the character makes decisions. That it might be difficult because characters can undermine everything that you do and you've planned, especially for years. But I can tell when I'm reading if a character is not acting the way I was told that they would act, and that takes me out of a story. If you ever wonder what things specifically draw me out of a story and typically give me, like, have me drop a really low rating on something, it is the lack of character logic and story logic. As long as you stay within that frameworks, like, you're already up here. But as soon as you start undermining yourself, I'm just sitting there going, why are we here? Then we got some bonus tropes because no, I never just do 10. Number 11, the author legit thinks that they are smarter than the reader and it shows. Have you ever read a book where the narration is like over-explaining things to you and basically going, dear pleb, let me tell you this because you have no idea how it is? Now, it's one thing if the character is like that because you can do so much with characterization. But if the author is stopping the book to wag their finger at you and tell you how much better than you they are, not into that. Not into that at all. Number 12, torture kink. Like, legit, I don't like it. I know, this is going to be probably the most controversial, is it not? If it's not, I'll be surprised. Maybe. And these are all probably hot takes, let's be real. But torture kink, I cannot stand. And I know it's something that a lot of people really like. I have had specifically a difficult time with this because, you know, I've seen what you people do with the Yakuza fanfic. I am not a fan of that fic. I am not a fan of just randomly hurting people because I hate seeing actual, like, pain and suffering in characters. I hate seeing pain and suffering in people. That doesn't mean I don't write it, but I don't write it for the purpose of, like, tending to somebody's boo-boos. I don't like making people feel bad in order to then be like, come here, little one. Bad things happen as a result of the situations that people are in or the choices that they make, but not specifically to do a comfort kink. And, like, that might be your thing, but I cannot deal with it. If that is your thing, good for you, but please don't send me the torture and the kink and the pain. I'm too much of a pacifist, let's be real. And then number 13, again, probably a hot take, because I've seen people really, really defend this. Cheating. I do not think that cheating is romantic. I don't think it's cute. I don't think it's fun for character growth, and it's one of the quick ways that you can make me hate your character and probably not redeem them. Period. Which is kind of silly, because I'm like, look, I can follow a story of a murderer, and I can follow a story of a rapist, probably. You might not win me back on the rapist, but everybody understands that one. But cheaters, people try to win you over with by going, look, they were in an abusive relationship, break up, run away. Don't be cheating on your abuser, just leave. But I know that I'm specifically more hardline on cheating in fiction because of my family being broken up from my dad cheating on my mother, and then everything that happened after that as a result of my dad being a jackass. So I know that I have zero tolerance for cheating. If that is your thing, great for you, but don't send me your fiction that includes the main character cheating on their spouse or their partner. I specifically write fiction with relationships that I like that are characters that like each other. They turn into stuff that's wholesome. I know that Gavin and Anna are murderers together, but they're obviously a team together and they strengthen one another. And that's the kind of thing that I love to see in relationships, is complementarianism and teamwork and developed relationships and not cheating. But yeah, please understand, all of these are just personal tastes of anything, and I'm trying to also be funny. So this is no rules. If you enjoy the stuff, all the power to you, but also do the time, commit the crime, do the time. With that said, let me know what your thoughts are on any of the tropes or whatever if they don't even count as tropes, whatever they are, let me know what your thoughts are on them down below. And let me know what some of your deal breaker or least favorite tropes to find in fiction are, because I would love to hear from you. Because I have a hard time really thinking of tropes when I'm just sitting here. So maybe we'll have some more in common. With that said, thank you so much for watching. Have a great weekend, and don't die. Don't commit anything that'll get you in the hole. Do you really want, you want to disappoint this? Look at him. Tell this face that you were okay with never seeing it again.
Was that Wayland Cross in the trunk? Do you know, or is that something that's still being figured out?
The person in the trunk was not Wayland Cross.
Is he in trouble?
We don't know who did it, but as the owner of the car, the longer he's missing, the worse it looks for him.
Cross isn't a killer. For the last couple of years, the average number of murders in Baltimore has been over 300, and it's been going up. Mind you, that's only whatever the badges count as official murder, and believe me, there are people that don't count when they die. Wayland? If you're down here, tell me. I'm not talking to the badges, I've been looking for you. They found a body in your trunk. Why? Did you do that? To the left, plain black letters read along the wall. You walked in the corridor. Once that ends, you chose the dark is on the right. My vision goes blurry, flickers black and black and black for longer intervals until I can't see anything at all. I'm not screaming anymore, but my voice echoes back to me. Where the hell am I? You're dead, Josephine. Even smart people do stupid shit sometimes, right?